Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Another episode. US Open 2022 favorites Coco Gauff. She's going to be our first WTA player that we're going to break down exactly how her year's been so far, and of course, how I think she's going to play at the US Open, what my prediction is going to be, and we'll look a little bit into her form in the last couple of years at the US Open, hard courts in general, and how I think she's going to fare with the speed of court and with being one of the home favorites as well. Excuse me. Before we get into it, remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. Thank you so much. And also, if you're a podcast listener or watcher, leave a rating or review. Really does help us out a great deal. Thank you so much. Coco Gauff, ranked number 12 in the world in singles. By the way, little fun fact, she's actually ranked number 1 in doubles. Can you believe it? I definitely can, because she has played a lot of doubles, and I think it's actually pretty good for a game to play as well, to get as many matches under her belt as possible at the age of 18. So, look, really good to see. Coco Gauff, I think, is a exciting young talent, as we all know, breaking onto the scene at 15, beating Venus Williams at Wimbledon a few years back, and the rest has been history, really. She's played some fantastic tennis, and she's had ups and downs, but peaked, I think, this year, making the Roland Garros final. We'll touch a little bit upon that in a second. But I want to go through some of the stats, I guess, for her career 2022 and give you a little bit of an overview of what her US Open record looks like as well to date. So as I said, the current rankings number 12 in the world. Year to date, win to loss in singles 30-16. Not incredible, I have to say, but not bad. She's won 2 titles in her career, none this year. And we're going to have a quick look at her US Open results. Now, she lost to Sloane Stephens in the second round last year in straight sets after beating Magda Linette in the first round in 3 sets. Sloane Stephens, of course, is a former US Open champion, so no real shame in losing to her, although she has been pretty up and down since that US Open win. Talking about her results in other Grand Slams, so interestingly, her runner-up position or final ending position at Roland Garros this year is her best yet. She's never won a Grand Slam at 18 years of age. If she had, would have been an incredible feat, of course. Her best results have actually come at Roland Garros. Runner-up this year, last year quarterfinals. She hasn't made a quarterfinal at any of the other Grand Slams. Interestingly. Australian Open, she lost in the first round this year, lost in the second round last year, and fourth round in 2020, which, look, I mean, I feel like the Australian Open is maybe one of the worst surfaces for her just because of the speed of court. And now the US Open is starting to play a bit quicker. Now, not quite as quick as the Australian Open, but still pretty quick. Not sure how that's going to fare for her, but we'll talk about that in a second. Her style of game is very interesting and also quite exciting, but it's an evolving one. It is. She lost to Wang, the Chinese player, in straight sets in the first round at the Australian Open, and her results at the US Open in the last 3 years, 2021, lost in the second round, 2020 lost in the first round, and 2019 in the third round. So that 2019 year was her breakthrough year when she made the 4th round at Wimbledon, on the way to a really good run. And of course, one of the wins was against Venus Williams, and then third round at the US Open. So had a little bit of a little nice period there, right, where she was playing some really good tennis, very confident tennis. Anyway, her game's definitely improved since. So what can we expect from her, I guess, going into the US Open? So she's made back-to-back quarterfinals, and that is a positive, right? At Toronto and Cincinnati, in San Jose, sorry, even in Toronto, she made back-to-back quarterfinals. In Cincinnati, obviously didn't go her way, losing early on. What I would say, though, is that Coco Gauff is a home favorite. There will be a little bit of added pressure. I'm not quite sure how she's going to deal with that mentally. She seems like a pretty mentally tough player, though, I have to say. And I know after an interview at the French Open final, she talked a lot about the mental side of things and how when she was a bit younger, I mean, she's still so young at 18 years old, but I guess when she was 15, 16, she really did take that pressure on it, and it was heavy and heavy on her shoulders. She felt the weight of it and did mention as well that, look, it affected me because I was looking to get validation from other people and make sure that people were happy with my performances. But now I think she's playing for herself solely. She wants to play for the enjoyment of it, and also wants to win matches and improve off her own back. And she's not comparing herself to anyone else or trying to be validated by anyone else. And that's great to see because, after breaking through at 15, of course, undoubtedly, she was going to have a lot of people hyping her up, and rightly so, because she's an extremely good talent. But it also comes with a level of mental toughness that is needed to withstand that. I feel like now she's built that, which is great to see. How will she fare at the US Open? So let's talk about her style first. One of the biggest servers on tour. I mean, she has a fantastic serve. She really does. The US Open nowadays doesn't quite play as slowly as it has in the past. It's still the slower of the two hardcourt slams. It's still one of the slower hardcourts on tour, but it's not as slow as it once was. Also, you have to bear in mind, and Gil Gross made a really good point, so I have to give him credit for this. He talked about how the men and women play with different balls. The men play with this US Open Wilson extra duty ball, which has more felt on it, has more weight to the ball, so it doesn't fly as much, it's slower. The women play with the normal duty Wilson's US Open ball, and probably, I guess, historically, the reason why that might have happened is because they thought the women weren't as physical as the men. However, Swiatek, Barty, and other players recently have mentioned that actually that's fine in the past, but now we are strong enough, we hit the ball hard enough that we should be using the same balls as the men. What does that mean then? So that's why I guess we saw someone like a Raducanu who doesn't possess huge power, hitting a lot of winners and being very aggressive and having a lot of success at the US Open. For Coco Gauff, that can be a couple of things. It can be a positive and a negative, I feel, because for her serve, it's a positive because it's going to fly through, of course, with the normal duty balls. They're a lot quicker than the extra duty balls. That's just the way they play with the less felt on. So they're going to go through quicker. She should win more points on her serve, but you have to also cater in that it's always been like this at the US Open. So this isn't anything new compared to prior years, but it does mean that the court generally then isn't quite as slow for the women. It's even quicker because of those balls, is what I'm trying to allude to. So closing the gap even more between the US and Australia. Now, for Coco Gauff, that's probably not a good thing because I feel like she prefers the slower courts. Why? Because her forehand, she has a very, very lengthy backswing on the forehand, and I feel like she needs time to tee it up. And when she does, it's so effective. Her backhand, on the other hand, though, is very, very solid. It is one of the better two-handers, one of the best two-handers, I would say. Maybe top 10 two-handers on tour, I would say. It's really potent and very consistent for the most part. And as I mentioned, her serve, massive server. She's improving in terms of her accuracy and hitting her spots. The other issue that she can potentially have on serve, though, is the double faults. And that was something she struggled with a lot earlier in her career. And it has got somewhat better, but it's still something that's there. And I guess you could compare it to an Alexander Zverev in the men's game. It seems to kind of always be there. She doesn't suffer it as badly as someone like a Sabalenka, but she also doesn't serve as many aces as Sabalenka. And I don't think that's necessarily to do with the speed, because I think she serves almost as quick as Sabalenka, potentially, if not quicker even at times. But it's more to do with the way she's hitting her spots and also the variation on her serve, Coco Gauff. The positive thing, though, for her is that even though it's a quicker court, her defensive capabilities are incredible. They really are. We saw it at the French Open, and we've seen it, I think, throughout the last year or so. Her fitness and her ability to get around the court is really good, and her ability to slice on both sides defensively, lob, get back into neutral, really, really astounding. And she clearly has power off both wings, right? So she can transition beautifully. She's so athletic, and that's great to see. And also her volleying. And I know a lot of people say that it doesn't always transition playing well in doubles to singles. Like, it doesn't, just because you're a good doubles player doesn't mean that you can volley well in singles. And I definitely agree with that. However, of course, the technique involved though for volleying, I think, is the same. And what I would say is that for Coco Gauff, she is the type of player who is able to use an opponent's strength and use it to her advantage. And I think the fact that she's able to make her opponent play the extra ball is a massive advantage that she has, especially on the women's tour where, a lot of people might feel a little bit underpowered playing against the Coco Gauff, for example. And I do feel that with Coco, a lot of her matches are in her hands because ability-wise and skill-wise, she's up there. She's really up there. She has the attributes to go very far in a Grand Slam. And a lot of people have been backing her to win a Grand Slam for the last couple of years. They really have been. Last year, a lot of people backed her to win Wimbledon. A lot of people would have been backing her this year to win a title. Of course, there's the added pressure, as I mentioned earlier, of being at the US Open, but I don't think that's going to phase her because unless the media somehow get under her skin some way, or they really pile on the pressure, I don't see her cracking under it. And I think it is probably helpful that Jessica Pegula is also up there as the top, whatever it is, 10 player or top 15, because she's also one of the home favorites, and a lot of people, I think, expect her to do quite well. So they can almost share that responsibility, and it's not all just on her. Of course, Serena's there as well, but people aren't expecting her to go deep anyway, and that's understandable. Her last US Open, of course, as well. So interesting to see. But Coco Gauff, I am quietly confident. I think it really does depend on the draw she gets, and also depends on her. She can just be a little bit erratic and inconsistent, and that's really the only thing. And it's a big thing, but it's the only thing that's stopping her from being a Naomi Osaka, winning 4 Grand Slams, for example, right? At the age of whatever Osaka is nowadays. So we shall see. We shall see how she gets on. I am thinking she should be making the quarterfinals as a minimum. That's my view on it. I think she's too talented not to be, but she's only 18 years of age. So we also need to caveat that. I also think with the quicker balls, it will mean she has less control in the forehand. That's not an advantage. That's quite a big disadvantage, of course. And I think she's going to have to get used to them. The only positive will be that she played in Cincinnati, but she only played 1 match there, so that's not particularly helpful. So I'm hoping she's practicing a lot in a Flushing Meadows. She's really getting used to the balls, and if she does, then I don't see why she can't, put forward a good performance. I would like to see her come to the net and be more dynamic. And I know she's, under the tutelage of Patrick Mouratoglou, and we covered Tsitsipas in our first video. She needs to maybe take a leaf out of his book at times and serve and volley, because she's a good enough volleyer and her serve is fantastic. As long as she's hitting her spots, I don't see why that can't be an option. I feel like at times she gets caught into the grind and the longer rallies. And yes, she can be very good from the back of the court, and she can blow people away from that back of the court. But she has more elements to her game. And there's not many women out there on tour that have the range of skills that Coco Gauff has. So it would be, for me, it would be a mistake not to utilize them to the best of her ability. So that's my take on Coco Gauff. Let me know your thoughts on her as well. How far do you think she's going to go? Thank you so much for tuning in to another US Open 2022 favorite segment. And of course, we'll be continuing to churn these out as we prep and look forward to the US Open. A lot more videos coming out as well, collaborations with 2 different channels coming out this week, on top of draw preview and prediction videos, and potentially a live stream Q&A with me as well. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well. We'll see you on the next video.